Hello and welcome to Picture Astrology. Today we are going to look at a very interesting horoscope in life of Bernie Sanders, who is currently fighting to be the US presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. The life of this indefatigable personality actually teaches many life lessons as well as a lot of astrological lessons. And in next few minutes we will try to find out astrological combinations behind many of the important events which shaped Bernie Sanders' life. And this includes the Holocaust. It includes the socialist mentality which he cultivated over the period of time. And also look at the election prospect which this man has in the coming future. So the very first thing before starting the analysis of a horoscope is to verify whether the horoscope correctly represents the personality or not. And especially in cases when an astrologer is not intimately familiar with the person. So with the available time, the horoscope we get is one with the ascendant as Scorpio. And the ascendant lord, which is Mars, placed in 6th house in the sign of Aries. Now I have recently made a video with this exact placement, that is placement of Mars in the 6th house when the Scorpio ascendant rises. And the very first thing you can say when you have this, and you can clearly see you have a preponderance of Martian energy. Mars is the planet of intense energy. And Scorpio is the most tenacious sign of Mars, whereas Aries, along with the 6th house, basically shows that the person would have an intense amount of energy. See, Mars is placed in the own sign, and 6th house shows a lot of hard work. Very first thing you can say when you see such a placement of the ascendant lord, ascendant being the most important point in analysis of the horoscope, is that the person is going to be really hardworking. And I have showed in that video that many people associate Mars in Aries in 6th house with some kind of police related work, army, police, intelligence gathering, spying, and so on. However, this placement can also mean obviously the persevering nature of the person, and also the fact that there could be war-like situation when the person was born. And since ascendant also shows your physical traits, how your body, how your physique is going to be, with Scorpio and Mars both being really masculine planets, Scorpio especially gives a very full personality. Person would be tall, broad shoulders, and there would be a masculine gravity in the personality, though it may not be the most attractive. See, Scorpio is not a Venus sign. It is not the sign which shows elegance, but it does show deep, intense behavior. So physically also, this tendency matches with the Bernie Sanders personality, and the tenacious and hardworking nature is also evident. We will see some more example of that. But before that, let's see if we can find out the Holocaust effect in this horoscope. So we know that Bernie Sanders was born at the time of 1941, just around the corner of Second World War. And a lot of his family, many of his father's side family, were the victims of the Holocaust. Now, is this something which can be found out in this horoscope? Does this horoscope support that? Let's see. So, with this Mars being in the sign of Aries, which is a very fiery and warlike sign. So Aries definitely represents war, and Mars is retrograde. So retrogression actually brings about more intense qualities of that planetary placement. And to add to that, Mars is actually just, it's less than 1 degree into Aries, and that constitute the nakshatra of Ashwini. Ashwini is actually a nakshatra which is ruled by the planet Ketu or South Node, which is known to be a planet associated with war casualties and in many ways barbarism. Now the fact that Mars is just less than a degree into this, which constitute another significant Vedic astrology concept of Gandanta, which basically means that some space which is at the very beginning of a nakshatra and a sign. So Ashwini begins with Aries sign, and this Mars is in the very beginning degree of not only a sign which is Aries, but also in the very beginning degrees of a nakshatra Ashwini. So in such a Gandanta position, a retrograde Mars can definitely bring about a lot of violent qualities. But this alone cannot show Holocaust. Now let's see, Mars is placed next to Moon. What about Moon? Moon is in the sign of Pisces, which is actually a very soft sign ruled by Jupiter according to Vedic astrology. But Moon again is in the nakshatra of Revati, and in the last charan. Every nakshatra has 4 padas, and Moon is placed in the 4th and last pada of Revati here. Now what does that mean? This means that this is another Gandanta position, and with that Gandanta position, Mars is not too far. Mars is, as I said, though it's in a different sign, it is just less than a degree into that, so it is actually very close to Moon, and with the retrograde position, meaning Mars is moving towards Moon. And on the other side, Moon is hemmed from Ketu. So if you see the position of Moon, it is in a very good house. 5th house is the house known as Trine house, which is a very auspicious, very good house. However, this Moon is surrounded by 2 of the planets which clearly signify war casualties. A very strong Mars in Aries in Gandanta position, and from Ketu on the other side, which is known to be, as I said, planet of war casualties, and Ketu also is placed in a nakshatra of Purva Bhadrapada. I'm just going to write PBH, Purva Bhadrapada, and that nakshatra is another very intense nakshatra. Though ruled by Jupiter, this nakshatra is also very closely associated with cutting ties with this world. So Moon definitely is surrounded by or has many negative, fiery, warlike influences. But we saw Moon is in good house. Moon is in the 5th house. It is the most auspicious house. So how do we reconcile? What it really means is Moon is in the 5th house. Therefore, Bernie Sanders himself was not physically affected by this Holocaust, was not physically harmed by these Mars and Ketu. See, imagine a scenario, suppose Moon was a couple or few more degrees here, just right next to Mars. Then this could have raised the question about this person's longevity itself. This could mean that the person himself is going to get wounded or injured in warlike situation, which is not the case here. And now see, what does Moon represents? Moon is the lord of 9th house. What is 9th house? There are many things. 9th house is known as house of luck. It is known as house of prosperity and so on. However, 9th also shows your lineage. It shows your ancestors, especially the father's side family. And in true Vedic astrology, 9th house is not just house of your luck. It is the luck which you inherit from your father's family side or from your ancestors. So see, now Lord of 9th is well placed in the 5th house. The house is very good. Auspicious Lord house placed in a very auspicious sign. That means he really got benefited from his father's luck or from his father's endeavors. His father left Poland and moved to United States. And if you see closely, that is exactly what saved Bernie Sanders. Had his father remained in Poland, which eventually became one of the epicenter of anti-Semitic violence, etc., then this horoscope would have told a very different story. So because of his father's endeavors, because of his father's luck, Bernie himself was able to survive. However, ninth in general shows, as I said, your lineage, your ancestors. And because of all these negative influences we just talked about, Mars in the fiery sign, in the very beginning degrees, in the Gandanta Nakshatra, in the fiery Nakshatra of Ashwini, Ketu also placed in Purva Bhadrapad, Moon also placed in Gandanta, in the sign of Revati, his ancestors or lineage, his grandfather and the family, other family members, they had to face the wrath of all that anti-Semitic violence. And to add to that, as I've talked about in my video about what is the difference between a house and a sign and a planet, before we can conclude any negative happening about a particular area of life, we must also have to see that some negative influence have to be on that house or on that bhava. Now, ninth house here is aspected by Mars, but from the fourth aspect, and as we saw, Mars has a lot of cruel qualities here, and at the same time a simultaneous aspect of Saturn is there. Plus there is no other benefic aspect, there is no aspect of Jupiter on this particular ninth house which shows your ancestry or lineage or father side family. So this aspects actually shows that there has to be some negative experience related to your forefathers, and the lord of that ninth house actually shows it. So you can clearly see the unfortunate events of horoscope from this placement of Moon, Mars, Ketu. So this was another thing which kind of verified that yes, this looks like the right horoscope of Bernie Sanders. And guys, now we'll talk about the other aspect, the socialism aspect, and the prospect of Bernie Sanders in the coming few months when it comes to the primaries and getting elected or not getting elected as the Democratic presidential candidate. But since this video is already long enough, I will talk about these things in the next video. Stay tuned and I'll be right back with that one.